In this presentation, Career Services will provide guidance around the resume and cover letter you will need to submit as part of your student teaching placement materials. A lot of the information that we are going to cover will be relevant down the road when you start crafting resumes and cover letters for teacher job applications. But there are some important differences between the resume and cover letter you will need to submit for your placement preferences compared to what you would submit for a job application. Our goal is to highlight those differences so you have a clear understanding of what you need to include for this particular situation. First, we will go over what to include in your teacher resume, and then we will discuss the cover letter. Throughout the presentation, we will reference the handouts that have been provided to you. We recommend having these accessible so you can reference them during the presentation. We understand that interns start their program with various education and career backgrounds and levels of professional and life experience. No matter where your comfort level is with crafting your resume and cover letter for your prospective mentor teacher, please know that the Career Services team is here to help. First, I'll explain the key difference between this resume and cover letter you will write for your prospective mentor teacher and a resume and cover letter you would write for a job application. In terms of your placement materials, the cover letter is meant to be an introduction of who you are as an educator. Think of this more as a personal statement. You'll want to focus on some key aspects that make you you, what's important to you as an educator, and if there are particular experiences or insights you are hoping to gain from your student teaching experience, you can include those as well. I will discuss this more in detail later on. So this is in contrast to a job application cover letter, which is more focused on why you are the best candidate for the job and why you would want to work at that particular school. You are not competing for a placement. You simply want to share who you are so that the teacher reading your letter can get a sense if they would be able to serve you well as a mentor. Regarding the resume you need to submit for your placement materials, you want to include all the experiences you have had working either paid or unpaid with youth. Your intention is to provide a snapshot of your previous experience so your prospective mentor teacher can learn more about you. Unlike a job application resume, where you might be more discerning about the experiences you include so they are specifically relevant to the school you are applying to, for the current situation, it's best to include all of your education-related experiences. The reader will not be critiquing the quality of your previous experiences like an employer would. Similarly to the cover letter, your resume will just help them get to know you and your background. So just remember that unlike a job application, this isn't a competition. The goal of the student-teacher placement process is to identify who you are, what you need to succeed, and then matching you with a mentor teacher that is going to help you on your journey this year. Now let's go more into detail about what you should include in your resume. A key difference with teaching resumes compared to resumes for other fields is that experiences are judged by their value instead of whether the work was paid or volunteer. You want to highlight any meaningful and pertinent experiences you've had working with youth, especially in terms of this resume that you need to submit for your teaching placement preference. The prospective mentor teacher is going to want to see all of your education-related experiences. You could have held a long-term paid position with a nonprofit organization, or maybe volunteered through a local community service organization. It could have been a time-limited project during college, or perhaps volunteering in a classroom of your own accord. No matter what it was, you want to include it on your resume for now. We often get the question from those who are making a career shift or who are new to the education field, should I include previous experiences even if they may not be directly related to or are unrelated to teaching? And if I should include these, what should I say about these experiences? Our answer is that it really depends on the individual. But first you want to ask yourself honestly, is this experience important for me to share with the reader? For your student teaching placement resume, I would err on the side of including experiences since it helps your prospective mentor teacher get to know what you have done leading up to this point. Some additional reasons to include unrelated experiences would be to account for significant gaps in time and to highlight any transferable skills from that experience that would apply to teaching. For experiences that are outside of the education sector, instead of thinking about the industry-specific tasks you did, focus on any time management, project management, and/or interpersonal skills you use during that experience that would help you succeed as a classroom teacher. If you struggle with whether or not to include an experience on your resume or how to write about it, please don't hesitate to talk it through with an SOE career advisor. So now that we've covered the types of experiences to include, I'll discuss the structure of a teacher resume as it has some unique qualities compared to resumes for other industries. This information is included in the Teacher Resume 101 handout that was provided in the PDF of resources, and we recommend using that guide as a reference when you are creating your teacher resume. In terms of graphics, I know with some industries you might be encouraged to add visuals or photos to your resume to set yourself apart from the crowd, but the teaching profession in general is more reserved. The key focus is your content and to make sure it is presented in a visually clean and organized fashion. Because of this, we recommend staying away from images as they might distract from your content and take up valuable real estate for describing your experiences. A common question we get is about resume length and if it can be more than one page. The short answer for both your student teaching placement resume and for a job application resume is yes. As long as all of the information on your resume is as concise, relevant, and meaningful to the reader as possible, it's okay to have a 2-page resume, especially if you've been actively involved in K-12 activities or have been out of school for an extended period of time. Typically, we recommend not to go over 2 pages, and of course there are always exceptions. You're going to hear principals who are adamantly against going over 1 page, and then you'll have others who are adamantly supportive of 2 pages as long as it's all relevant. Unless you know the particular preference of a principal at a school where you are applying for a job, then just follow what works best for you. In terms of the text font and size you should use, studies have shown that the majority of employers prefer sans serif fonts like Arial or Helvetica as opposed to serif fonts like Times New Roman, just because they are a little easier to read. We also recommend that the main text of your document should be between 10-point and 12-point font size. For your header, keep it clean, simple, and not too large. Real estate is precious on a resume. The required components are your name, which should be the largest text on your resume so it stands out, and your UMich email address. It's customary to include your phone number and mailing address as well, but if you do not feel comfortable including these pieces, you can leave them off or use more general text like your city and state instead of your mailing address. Your header is also a good place to know a first name other than your legal name or your pronouns if you so wish. In terms of objective statements, these tend to be popular in other fields but are not usually included on a teaching resume. If it says in your certification section you are certified to teach at the elementary level and you're applying to an elementary teaching position, then you don't need to state that. However, sometimes if people are making a significant shift in their career trajectory or from previous experiences, an objective statement can be used to help bridge the gap and make it clear to the employer that you are dedicated to pursuing teaching. For your prospective mentor teacher especially, you do not need to include an objective statement, as you will be providing a cover letter and they will already know the context of your situation. Now moving into your section headers, for a teacher resume, you want to make sure you adjust your section titles to highlight your teaching and education-related experiences. The certification, education, and teaching experience sections are almost always going to be your first 3 sections and displayed in that order. Beyond that, it's really up to you to personalize. Most teachers will have a section after their teaching experience section that encompasses other experiences that may or may not be directly related to education, but are still pertinent to include. You should title this additional section as it relates to the types of experiences that you will be putting under it. Based on the content, you could title it Additional Experience, Related Experience, Relevant Experience, Community Engagement, Nonprofit Experience, etc. It really comes down to thinking about your reader and how you can best organize your previous experiences so they can have a firm understanding of your background. It's up to you whether you want to have a skills or interest section on your resume. For a skills section, you want to consider what specific items you have to add to this. If you only have 1 or 2 items, it's usually more beneficial to just incorporate that skill into the experience where you showcased it as a bullet. You especially want to avoid listing broad interpersonal skills like communication, collaboration, time management in a skills section, as these don't really provide the reader with enough context to know how you do these things. You can definitely get more across incorporating these types of skills into bullets. On the other hand, if you have a handful of technical skills, then it might be meaningful for you to have them stand out in a skills section. Just keep in mind that the importance and value of anything you include should be obvious to the reader, and if it's not, consider adding a short explanation about why this is valuable for them to know. Interest sections, on the other hand, have for the most part fallen away in use on resumes unless it's something that is deeply meaningful to you and that you feel is essential for your reader to know at the time they review your resume. For your prospective mentor teacher, it's definitely okay to include an interest section, as this just helps them get to know you more. But for your job search resume, we encourage you to only include an interest section if it is relevant to your work as a teacher. When it comes to references, you do not want to include these on your resume for your prospective mentor teacher. And for your job search resume, we recommend having a separate document altogether that includes your references and their contact information. Let's take a deeper look now at the top 2 sections of the resume. One of the handouts you will be provided with describes the wording you should use when noting your teaching certificate and degree on your resume. Please use this wording as it is the official wording. We also included a handout that lists the codes that are affiliated with all endorsement areas in Michigan. These codes tend to be helpful down the road when you are applying for teaching positions, as human resource departments are able to quickly confirm that you hold the correct endorsement that is required for the job. Since you are updating your resume anyway, we recommend adding the codes now. For all of those in the ELMAC and undergraduate elementary program, the initial certificate you will be issued as an elementary teacher in the state of Michigan will be called a Michigan Standard Elementary Certificate. Now, on that certificate, you are going to have 2 endorsement areas. The first is an elementary endorsement that certifies you to teach K through 5, all subjects, and K through 8, all subjects self-contained classroom. What this means is, in addition to your elementary endorsement, you will also have an endorsement in another teaching area, and this will allow you to teach K through 8 in that area. If you are planning to complete the ESL endorsement, you would also add this here, and that certifies you K through 8. In terms of your degree, you want to make sure to spell everything out, since unless you're applying to a local school that knows U of M well, they are not going to know what exactly ELMAC is. but feel free to include the acronym in parentheses following the degree name if you prefer. Even though your official degree name is a Master of Arts in Educational Studies, it doesn't hurt to add "with elementary certification" at the end to make it clear you obtained your certification through your master's degree program. If you have 1 or 2 awards that you received during a degree program, you can consider including it right below that particular degree in your education section. Also, if you received or will receive more than 1 degree from the same institution, such as completing your undergraduate degree from U of M in addition to the ELMAC program, to save space, just list the University of Michigan once and then slightly indent the different degree names and schools underneath. You can see an example of this on the resume example number 1 in your PDF of resources. One of the most important things on your resume will be the text you use to describe each of your experiences. We recommend using bullets instead of paragraphs, as this is easier for a reader to identify each of your main statements. In addition, it's really important to have meaningful bullets and not just state the tasks that you did. To do this, there are 3 steps you can follow. First, determine the content, what you want to say about this experience. If you're writing the bullet from scratch and struggling with what to focus on, it can help to envision how you would answer if your prospective mentor teacher verbally asked you, "What are the key takeaways you got from this experience?" When replying, you would describe the key aspects in a way that they would understand and find value in. Sometimes brainstorming and free writing can help get these thoughts down on paper first before worrying about how to structure the statement into a polished bullet. So once you know the key takeaway for the bullet, secondly, you want to use the bullet plus format to help you structure your bullet so you convey the value of your takeaway. You want to include your task or responsibility, which is the what you did, beginning with a strong action word, and then communicate the value of that task through giving an example of how you did it, or why you did it, or an impact that resulted from that task. Including one of these aspects, either the how, why, or impact, will paint a more detailed picture for the reader of how well you did that task. It's important that you showcase to the reader your positive contribution in making that task successful so they can see you being successful in the role that applies to the current situation. The third and last step is to check your bullet for validation. Is the statement getting to what you want the reader to understand? When in doubt, ask a friend, family member, or peer what they get from reading the bullet. If you find that you are struggling with putting together a bullet plus statement, you can use the resume bullet worksheet we have included in the PDF of materials that will walk you through the process of creating a bullet step by step. Here are some examples of bullets using the bullet plus format with the different parts of the statement highlighted. You don't have to include more than one aspect, the why, the how, or the impact, in a bullet, but if you find it works to include more than one and you can keep your bullet length to 2 lines max, then go for it. Now let's discuss what you should write in your cover letter for your prospective mentor teacher. The cover letter prompt that you received from the program was describe yourself to a potential mentor teacher in a way that gives insight into who you are as a developing professional. It might be helpful to reframe this question as the following. What is important to you as a beginning teacher that would be helpful for a mentor teacher to know? And are there specific experiences from your coursework, fieldwork, or life experiences that influence the way you think about teaching and students? Just remember that this prospective mentor teacher is just trying to get a sense of who you are as a beginning teacher so they can think about the ways in which they can support you and work with you. If you need them, here are additional prompts to help you decide what you want to include in this cover letter. By no means do you need to answer all of these. These can just be helpful in figuring out what is important for you to share with the prospective mentor teacher. Here are some helpful tips to keep in mind when you start writing your cover letter. Remember that this is not a typical cover letter like for a job application. It's really more of you sharing your story as an educator with the reader. Remember to tailor this letter to who you are as a unique individual. You want to share your story so that Mary Tenny Moorhead can match you with the best mentor that is going to help you personally to succeed. Avoid saying general statements that would apply to all teachers without going more in depth to why that is meaningful to you. Such as stating, I decided to become a teacher because I love working with children. This could apply to any teacher, so you would want to go a step further and share what it is about working with children that you love so much. We have provided some cover letter examples in the PDF of resources to show you the amount of detail and types of things that former interns have shared in their cover letters. Please use these purely as examples and do not copy or slightly change the wording to use in your letter. Reflect on what is important for you to share and ask a career advisor for guidance if you get stuck. It's important to address your letter, dear prospective mentor teacher. The person who reads your cover letter may not be selected as your mentor teacher, so when writing your cover letter, do not make it sound as if this is a done deal. Likewise, with your closing, instead of saying something like, I look forward to working with you this year, you should say something like, I look forward to the opportunity to possibly learn and work with you this year. If there are 1 or 2 areas or skills you hope to develop during your student teaching experience, you can include them, but they are not required. Avoid including things that are so narrow in focus that it might be hard for your mentor teacher to provide. You can also talk more generally about the ways in which you are looking forward to being supported or working with your mentor teacher. Unlike the resume that can be more than 1 page, it is important to keep your cover letter to 1 page single-spaced, just like a job application cover letter. If you look in the PDF of materials we provided, you will see 2 different cover letter examples from previous interns. We're going to focus on the first example to showcase how they decided to structure their letter and what this example is successfully getting across to the reader. You can review the second cover letter example on your own and see how we suggested a few different ways that the formatting could have been improved. In this first main paragraph from cover letter example number 1, the intern touches on their personal background, initial interest in teaching, and a concise overview of their teaching experiences to date. In the next paragraph, the intern focuses more on the present and what interests and motivates them as an educator. Note how they close their letter with an appropriate ending that speaks to the fact that the reader may end up being their mentor teacher, but it is not certain. Words like possibility or possible opportunity can be helpful to address this. That wraps up our information on the resume and cover letter for your mentor teacher placement. After you review this presentation and the PDF of resources we provided, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Career Services team at soe.careerservices@umich.edu if you have any questions. You also should have received information about how to schedule an appointment to meet with an advisor to get feedback on your documents. We wish you the best in this exciting next step of your teaching journey.